Hello, welcome to Riva del Garda, big mountains and a big day as Bosch launched a significant update to the Performance Line CX motor and an all-new CXR for 2026. We're here to give you the details and demonstrate the heightened possibilities that these units now offer. Bosch launched the updated 2025 CX unit last year with torque and peak power figures which they believe to be very much the sweet spot, and yet with more potential under the hood, so to speak. 85 Newton meters, 600 watts peak power. These are the kind of numbers that gave riders the right amount of power with a great amount of range. 2026 for Bosch CX means more power, more torque and more assistance. So existing users to the CX drive unit can be looking at increases from 85 to 100 Newton meters. Peak power go from 600 to 750 watts peak, and assistant levels raise from 350 to 400%. Also some very clever tweaks to the software, which means in general more power and more control. All new for 2026 is the CXR motor, which is a motor which Bosch says symbolises pure power. Now this is a unit which is designed for riders who've got the skill set, but also the ability to harness that power. And more than that, the understanding of how the power is delivered to get the most out of it. In terms of the numbers, you look at 100 Newton meters at 400% assistance and also 750 watts peak power. The CXR is also about using premium materials, high performance sensors, titanium spindles, ceramic bearings, and those beautiful powder coated casings. It's very important to remember that all the power and the way the power is delivered is adjustable through the Bosch Flow app. And they also have a very new special feature called eMTB+, which I'll come on to a little bit later. New CX update available from July and an all-new CXR drive unit. Right, what does all this actually mean to you, the rider, in terms of how the bikes ride on the ground? I'm going to cover this in three subheadings. The first one I want to cover is effort. Does more power lead to less effort out on the trail? Absolutely not, because I'd argue that more power leads to an increased effort because of the more technical terrain that you're going to be riding. True, if you are maybe a heavy rider and you've got steeper terrain, you might actually get up there a little bit easier, but that's a different subject which I want to come on to next. And that is, how does the CXR and the CX compare in an uphill head-to-head? Well, me and Joe behind the camera did that a little earlier on today, and we actually found that on a time trial uphill stage, both me and Joe were getting around about the same ride times on a gradient of about, well, that much. Not massively scientific, but enough to give you an insight into the fact that on the mellower climbs, there's not actually much difference in the speed of the two motors. I would argue that the CX it's a smoother bike on mellow gradients, and the way the CXR motor works, it actually gives you a load of power in a short amount of time. And I'm going to show you now where this motor actually counts. Now this is where I truly believe that the CXR drive unit excels. It's steep, it's technical, it's steppy, it's all round horrible, huge exposure to my left hand side. And what the CXR drive unit allows you to do is actually accelerate in small pockets of ground just like this. Now, I want to get something very straight here. Power alone won't allow you to conquer trails like this. This is probably World Cup level. It certainly would hold its own in a World Cup power stage. What you need to understand is that things such as rider skill, tyre choice, tyre pressure, tyre compound, bike geometry, line choice, body balance all come into play on a trail like this. Because I will be honest with you, if you have one stone like this and it catches your rear wheel at the wrong time, it'll spin you out, and it doesn't matter how much power you have, then it's game over. Which is the best drive unit? Well, when it comes to uphill technical terrain, the CXR is an uphill powerhouse. There is no doubt about it. But I want to just put this out there, especially for lighter riders, that me at 97 kilos, that can still be a wild pony on steep technical, maybe loose uphill terrain. And Bosch do point out that that bike is designed for riders of like pro level skills. The two motors do have very different personalities. So CXR gives you a load of power in a short space of time, whereas the CX is a far smoother unit through the range. I want to turn our attention now to something which I think is much more important than just power or torque, and that is ride time. Yes, I want to talk about ride time. Now, by ride time, I mean the actual total amount of time you spend riding your eMTB on a ride, up, down, along, and across. Now, ride time will always be a trade-off between rider weight, between motor power, battery capacity, the mode you ride in, the tyres you use, the ground conditions. But as an example, on my white Kado with the existing Bosch CX motor, in full turbo mode, I can ride for a total time of 1 hour 45 minutes. And that's a distance of 30 kilometers and a vertical height gain of 1100 meters. Now that is with a 600 watt hour battery. I think the Bosch CX motor, and I've got facts on the ground here, is that it is actually a really efficient motor, because I've ridden bikes with larger capacity 800 watt hour batteries with more power, which are considerably less efficient. So the story with Bosch CX is it's actually a matter of choice. You can actually use the power if you need to, if you're riding technical trails, and that's whether it's on the CX motor or indeed on the CXR motor. But I think efficiency of the e-mountain bike system is something you cannot escape from. Okay folks, can I introduce you to a total limestone nightmare. Now there's a few things which I need to talk to you about the two motors. They are actually different personalities and they require a different riding technique for each of them. So some people, whoa, did I just me? Oh, dab. Oh, I'm now out of breath. My legs are on fire. It's no longer about the motor. It's about my physicality and my pitiful technique up those steps. So, like I said, different motors require different techniques to ride in them. Just bear that in mind when you're thinking about CXR and CX. So linked to the personality of the motor is not only when the motor gives you all the power, it's also the overrun as well. So for example, if you've got a 6-foot gap, then you've got a step, you don't want to rush in to that next step with too much overrun. So it's about tapering the overrun back to suit you for the type of climb. So I think in some ways, maybe like eMTB mode on the CX motor, with a different riding technique might actually give certain riders a better chance to clean certain climbs. Wow, what a day on some particularly difficult limestone terrain here in Riva del Garda. Hopefully I've demonstrated that power does matter, especially if you're tackling uphill technical terrain. However, one thing which I've not spoken about yet, and this only comes, I think, once you as a rider have got an understanding of just how that race mode works on the CXR, is the eMTB Plus feature, which Bosch have introduced this year for both the CX and the CXR. To explain in very brief terms, is CXR in race mode goes from 0 to max power, woof, straight through the pedals. With eMTB Plus, it offers a shallower curve, so it gives you a smoother input to get to maximum power. And I think when you're in really technical terrain, you don't want something so aggressive. You want like a smoother arc to feed you in. So this is where Bosch say it's a kind of traction control for eMTBs. And I think that's going to be really important for you, the rider, in wetter conditions. I've already demonstrated today where a rock can actually unsettle you. So if you think of all the varied conditions you as a rider will get on the eMTB, I think it's a fantastic feature. And one thing which I found really interesting here, which Klaus Fleischer touched upon, was some research which Bosch had done that's the boat coming in, is the fact that 85% of people don't get anywhere near riding in full power mode on their eMTBs. I think 75% of riders, you'd be surprised that they're running quite a low power mode on their eMTB. So like I said earlier, I do 1 hour 45 with 600 watt hour battery, 97 kilos in full turbo mode. With an 800, I'm going to get more like 1600 meters. So think, folks, about ride time. It's definitely as important as power. But when it comes to technical riding, I think what you have there is two very impressive motors. Oh, crikey, actually there's one more thing as the boat heads back for more passengers, and that is the fact that Purion 400C, new display. You might have seen this on some top tubes over the past 12 months. Bigger display, it's configurable in about 32 different ways. Far bigger digits on there so you can see it more easily when you're descending. Remember the 600, the 800 power tube plus the range extenders. Flow app to adjust these motors to make them any personality you want to. And one final thing, which is possibly the most important, and that is the fact that you can actually update your Performance Line CX from July this year.